All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of the Modern Agent Blueprint. And so we got a little surprise this morning. About 2 hours ago, Jesse messaged us and had to cancel because there was a death in her family, or someone was really sick. So what we did this morning is we came up with what we thought is, I mean, that's kind of when you do these masterminds, you're always at the risk of something like this happening. And what we did is we came up with what we thought was a topic that is really necessary right now. And we came up with, so what we're going to talk about today is 9 ways to get your offers accepted in this market. Because, we have a group thread with all of our agents, and we're constantly going through, and everyone's talking about, they lost because of this, they lost because of that. And we really felt like this was a relevant topic today, especially, I'm sure that almost everyone on here can raise their hands if they've lost an offer like in the past, 2 weeks, because it's kind of been that crazy. But before we get started with that, I'm going to have Julie talk for just a minute about an event that's coming up. Why don't you tell us about it, Julie? Oh, you're muted.
Hey guys, yeah, I know some of you aren't local on this call, but if you are, we would love to see you at our event at the end of the month. It's on the 28th of April, and it's at Andiamo in Warren. It's going to be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's called Level Up, and it's women-led. It's not women exclusive, but some of the topics discussed maybe feel a little bit more female-oriented. But we'd love to see anybody there. Tickets are on sale via Eventbrite. They are $22, $30 at the door. We're going to have some amazing speakers there, including myself. Our business associate, Marguerite, is coming in from California. She's going to MC and moderate the event. We've got some amazing stuff planned. And Lee, can we put I'll put it in the chat. I'll put our Eventbrite in the chat. I know a lot of you guys know about it, but we'd love to get the tickets sold and be able to, it's a lot of planning involved for a major event like this, because we're expecting 200 people. And so to be able to plan, we would love to have everyone who's coming register and bring your friends. If you guys are closer to the west side of Metro Detroit, pack your car and come and see us. Nicole's going to be speaking on social media. She just joined us right now. Her and Nikki Wolf, who's actually from Ohio. She's bringing a carload from Ohio. It's going to be super fun. We have a wardrobe stylist, Kendra. We have a photographer talking about branding. We have Jen, who's going to speak on mindset, which we all need to control the mindset, which is probably going to feed into what we're talking about today. Julia Brenner's talking about manifestation, just all those things, like just to collaborate, surround yourself with good people with good ideas, and make real estate more than just about like doing transactions. So it's going to be super fun. So I'll put the Eventbrite here in the chat, and hope to see you guys there.
Hey, Nicole, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, sorry I'm late, trying to, get realtor time, whatever, realtor time. So no, I think she said it all. I mean, I think we're super duper excited about it. We have a lot of really good speakers coming. It's going to be full of value. So bring some friends. We're going to have some awesome giveaways. I'm really excited. We haven't really talked about the giveaways that we're doing. So we're going to have some amazing giveaways. I'm really excited in general. So I hope to see everyone there. I missed the beginning part of this. So Lee, did you talk at all about the slight change in the schedule today?
I did. And so can we get a raise of hands if you guys think that that's a good topic today, is 9 ways to help you get your offers accepted?
Can I double put my hands up, please?
Who thinks it's a bad idea right now? I don't think anyone does. Yeah, because like I said, we have our thread and it's constantly going all day with all of our agents and on our team, and it's one after another of we lost, we did 30,000 over, and we still lost, and blah blah blah. So what like I said, what we wanted to do was go over, and there's probably more than 9 ways, but what we did is we summarized it as what we felt were the 9 lowest hanging fruit ways to get your offer accepted in today's market, because it is a very tough market right now. So here we go. So I'm going to share my screen here. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yep.
All right. So number 1 is to follow the listing agent's instructions. There's no quicker way to get your offer knocked out if you don't follow what they're asking. Nicole, why don't you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, I'll be the first one to say, like, I mean, one thing that drives me insane, and this is not even necessarily instructions, but put everything in one PDF. When you have 7 different attachments, I literally open it up and go, ugh, why? Put it in one PDF. The beauty in most of our systems right now is that you can download each thing and save it as one file. You don't have to save individual files. Anna just said the Remind link. I'll be honest, I don't love when somebody just sends me the link to one of the things, because if they she's saying it's the worst. Got it.
Yeah, that's the
correct.
worst.
I had somebody who said that. They just were like, they forward me the docs that they just signed, and I was like, are we putting in minimal effort here? Because you've given me nothing, like no offer summary or anything like that. But if I learned this in high school. I had this extremely tough English teacher. She was really, really mean, but she was really, really nice and gave you good grades if you followed her instructions. So she said, you put this binder together and you put it in this order, you'll get an A. So I did that and I got an A. And everybody else in the class, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people in the class just didn't follow the instructions and they failed. This is the same thing. If an agent says, fill out this offer summary, I know it's a pain in the ass, but if we do it anyway, it's just going to make your offer look better because you follow the directions. If they say, send proof of funds, or if you're going to set, go over asking, if they want an EMD check, have your client write it out. Whatever they're asking, if you follow their directions, they're going to understand that you're serious about it. You listen to what they said. And one of my listings recently, Brian actually wrote an offer on one of my listings, and I had offer instructions. If you're going to send, here's all the information that I need, please read this before you call me. If you haven't, everything is answered on the MLS. Please just, there shouldn't be any reason that you have to call me besides to find out logistically, like not even logistically, but how many offers there are in hand or what you can do to improve your offer. All of the instructions are there. All the exclusions are there. So, I think also on the listing side, to save yourself a headache is to give all of those details, put that stuff on there. The one thing that drives me nuts is when people say there's exclusions, but they don't list them. Then you have to call, you can't get a hold of them. You don't know what the exclusions are. So you can't fill out that line on the purchase agreement. It's very frustrating. So if you are a listing agent and they're excluding, put that in the put that in the agent notes, but definitely follow the agent's instructions.
All right, number 2. This is super important. Manage your buyer's expectations. How many times do we take a client out and don't manage their expectations in advance, and then after they lose out on their first multiple offer situation, they become extremely discouraged, and that's a big deal. I mean, you really need to go into it saying, you're going to have to be patient. You're going to have your boxing gloves on. You're going to be, this is going to be an all out, it's not just going to be something very simple. I mean, although we had an agent that took our client out, got a VA offer accepted in the first day. So you ultimately never know, but you really just need to set the right tone with your buyers. And we wanted this to be kind of an open forum for everybody. Does anybody have anything to add? If you do, just unmute your mic and feel free to.
It would probably be easier to have them
words.
raise your hand, or like on the reactions bar on the bottom, guys. If you want to say anything, just raise your hand so we can call on you. That way there's not like a bunch of people talking over each other. One thing I would say is, we talked a little bit about this morning is, the part of are you going to get into mindset, Lee, or is this something we can talk about right now?
We can talk
I'm
about it
part of
now.
the buyer. What'd you say?
We can talk about it now.
Okay, so I just got these new buyers. They're brand new, haven't looked at a house yet. They're sending me houses on a Sunday saying we want to see this house. And I've, I tried to explain to them, when a house comes on the market on a Thursday, we can't wait until Sunday to see it because they're going to be asking for, highest and best offers by then. They may even have an offer deadline of Sunday afternoon. And they were getting discouraged and they hadn't even been out yet. And I said, we got to talk about this because I want you guys to feel empowered and I want you to be educated and I want you to know how this works. But this is typically how we see the market going. People put the houses on the market Thursday, they call for offers on, Sunday, yada, yada. But I think, they don't understand that. And I think when they don't do this every day. So I think managing their expectations of, this market is tough. Brian was talking this morning and maybe Brian could even elaborate a little bit on what he says to his clients. But I think, you have to set them up for success. And if we are constantly talking about the market sucks, this is terrible, the market's stupid. And I mean, I will tell my clients, I feel like the market is stupid right now. Like this is frustrating for me as well as you, but we're in this together. We're going to find you a house. But I think if we stay with that positive mindset and keep our clients in that positive mindset, the whole process is going to go a lot smoother. Brian, do you want to chime in and just talk about kind of what you were saying this morning?
Yeah. So what I do with my clients is, I work a lot with VA clients and stuff like that as well. So, they're already kind of at a disadvantage because of the way that a lot of listing agents look at the VA program. So when I sit down with them, I go through and say, listen, you're going to hear all sorts of stuff that market is crazy and it's all this. And I tell them, realistically, it is. There's prices going on that I can't even justify. However, I set them up in that mindset of, like Nicole said, we're in this together. We're going to go through, we're going to look at some homes. We're going to, go from here and there. And as we start finding the homes, once we start putting in our offers to them, I tell them, here's the deal. We're going to put in this offer. They may get multiple offers. They may, may not. We'll keep touch. We'll see how it goes. But, rest assured that the right house is out there. What I start pushing with them is, if this house doesn't do it, then that just means the universe says there's a better house out there for you. And it's never gone wrong for me, in the last couple of years since the market switched over to such a strong seller's market, that's the message I push with my clients is that, hey, whether you believe it or not, the universe has something better out there for you. And every time that I've been able to get my clients under contract and they get that house, they always look at me and said, you know what, you were right. You kept us pushing, you kept things positive. And we're so happy that this is the house we ended up with and not the one or two or three that we put offers in previously. So it's just keeping them in set that, hey, there's other people out there that may have crazy money and they don't care about throwing stuff away or going, this and that, but we're going to keep things physically, sound for you as far as your, what you're purchasing and how things are going to work for you. And, I'm in it for you. I always remind them that I'm there for you and everything I'm going to tell you is for your benefit, from there. So it's just keeping them positive, letting them know that, hey, if we lose out on this one, it's not the end of the world. There are a lot of people in the same boat, but we're just going to keep, working at it. And it's difficult sometimes, like I joke with my clients. I said, you're allowed to like a house, but you're not allowed to love a house until I tell you you're allowed to love a house, and I make a joke out of it with them. But I do it all the time. I'm like, hey, you can like it. Don't love it yet. Not until I tell you you're allowed to love it. That type of thing. So it's just kind of keeping it loose with them. And I stay away, even on like my social media, I stay away from all those memes that you see so many realtors put out that are negative on the market. Because these buyers look at it and they just automatically in their head, it's just like they feel like they're up against a mountain that they're trying to move. So, my job is to help calm them and just let them know that, hey, it may be a little bit difficult, but we're going to get there. And I'm your tool here to help you do that. And I always just try to keep it, constantly positive. Even when I have to call them and say how our offer wasn't accepted, like I did last night, It's, hey, we were one of the top 3 offers that came in. So we know that the type of offer we're writing is strong. It just happens to be somebody came in with a little more money in their pocket. And, we couldn't compete with that. But that's not to say that the offer we put in was wrong. So I make sure that they see the positives in what we're doing and just keep moving them forward that way. Because they do get discouraged. I mean, even on first offers, some of them feel like it's HGTV and they're going to look at 3 houses and they're going to pick one and that's the house they're going to get. And, it's going to go from there. And it's just not the way it works.
Right.
That's
right.
good. And
Julie, did you want to say something? You're muted. Okay, good.
Yeah, I just wanted to expand on, I've got some buyers, and when you have the buyers that don't have to move, but like they want to move. And if I could go back, like even to a year ago, and there's that fine line between like pushing them too hard.
Mhm.
You tell them, if you tell them everything they need to do, so they just, sometimes they don't believe you in the beginning, and sometimes if I could go back, there's one in my mind, if I could go back and have just pushed them just a little bit harder, the one that got away where everything kind of measures up to that one, and they could have done it. Like they could have done it. And you get to that point where you're like, you feel like you're pushing and spending their money and you're trying to explain that this is what it takes. And now look at where we are a year later. Like they would probably have like 50 grand equity in the darn thing. Right. But at the time, it just felt like such a stretch.
Mhm.
So it's just like, you really have to be ultra clear with them from the beginning. It can't just be, because a lot of times you're going to show up at that first house and it's going to be the one, and they're going to want to write an offer. And if you haven't done like a buyer consultation in advance, and really, I think until a buyer's in it, they have no idea how it is, like how far they're going to be stretched.
Yep.
So the buyer consultation is so important, because that will lead to less frustration when they do lose one, or they do lose 2, and they wish they had gone a little further, and again, everybody's different. Some are just going to go for it with their heart, and some are the ones that are too cerebral about it are the ones that you're like, oh man, how am I ever going to get through?
Right.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to use your heart in this market.
Yeah.
as a
I
buyer.
think it's good. I do struggle with a little bit like, maybe coming across, like I worry about coming across harsh, or like, this is the market, this is what we have to do. And like, I've just been telling people, if we're going to go over asking, it is expected in this market now to pretty much have an appraisal guarantee. Like there's really no way around it. So we just have to see what we're working with, and depending on what you have available is what we're going to be able to play with. And this is solely based on what you have available. And if you don't have a whole lot, we'll have to figure out a plan. We'll have to figure out another strategy, but we can work with what you have. I try just to be encouraging to them and let them know that it's not going to be the end of the world. We will find something. They're just going to have to be a little bit patient. I do want to say real quick, Realtor Life, I have to run at 12:30 to go do a showing, but I'll stay on, but I probably won't be able to chat much during the rest of this, but I'll listen in the car.
all right, let's go to number 3.
Roberto had something he wanted to say real quick.
Go ahead,
So it's
Roberto.
more so a question. I think, managing buyers' expectations is really awesome. But along with that, I think finding the right time to do so is also important. And I personally feel like I sometimes struggle gauging when would be the best time to have that sit-down conversation. Is it while I'm on the phone call with them, before we go see showings? Is it after we see showings, after they lose their first offer? What are some of your tips? Because I feel like that can be almost more important than the conversation, choosing the right time to have that conversation so it's productive and conducive to like building that relationship between client and agent instead of being reductive.
Right. I think personally, when I do a new agent, or I'm sorry, not new agent, like a buyer consultation, a lot of times what I've been trying to do now is set up a Zoom with them. So then they see me, I see them. We set up like a half an hour appointment. And I talk to them about what they're looking for. Like I get all of their information first.
Mhm.
And then I say, okay, well, let's talk about the market. You've probably heard what's going on. It is a tough market. So we're going to have a little bit of thick skin, and I just kind of explain to them a lot of it, because this also gives them an opportunity to look at their finances before you start looking at houses. in my eyes, I would rather them know what they can do than be stuck, you know, when we have a deadline and now we don't know if they actually have any funds to be able to do an appraisal guarantee. So I like to just talk to them up front and say, this would be a great time before we start looking out. Talk with your lender. If you have a financial advisor, or, you know, if your parents are able to help you at all with a gift or something like that, like, let's get all of those ducks in a row. So when we find the right house, we don't have to stress out while we're trying to get this offer written and get everything sent over on a Sunday night. You know, we want to make sure we have these things planned in advance. And I feel like that's setting them up for success, you know, from the very first call.
Yep, I agree. I do the same. And then the other thing I do too is, you know, I go through and I'm like, okay, what are your 4 most important things in a home? And then I also set them up that, you know, especially if they're starting to bust out, you know, granite countertops and everything's moving ready and all of this, those are the same things that everybody else is looking for. So those will be the tougher homes that we go after. And then I start to temper them of the, you know, if we find 3 out of your 4 top things, that's a good thing, you know, in this market, and start to temper those expectations a little bit as well. Because you find a lot of younger new buyers are, you know, again, they want that HGTV home. But so does everybody else, especially in the Saline, Ann Arbor area and everything else. You know, so finding those ones that might need a little bit of work on them are where they can find a little more bang for their buck as well. So I also throw that into my consultations with them as well.
Another
it.
thing I do with mine too is I will actually try to say, hey, let's get on a Zoom as well with the lender. And let's make sure that you fully understand what it's going to look like as far as you're coming in at this offer. Do you know what an appraisal guarantee is? Oh yeah, I know. Okay, well, let's have the lender plug in that number and let's go over your closing estimate and let's see what that does to your cash to close. If you're guaranteeing X amount on an appraisal guarantee, can you still do that? And then sometimes it's been like, whoa, no, I can't do that. It's like, okay, now let's adjust. What do we need to move? The appraisal guarantee? Do we need to move the taxes? Is there an HOA? Because I just had this happen with one of my clients where theoretically she should have been able to write on a property that was listed at like 120 or 130. We could go up to 140 for her budget, and she was comfortable. She said, oh yeah, I can do the extra 10,000 appraisal guarantee. Then she talks to her lender, and she did not use the lender that I recommended multiple times, who then she came back and said, oh no, I had him run the numbers like you told me to, and it's way too much. So I said, okay, we need to take a pause now, and we need to, we can't see any more properties until we get this nailed down. Which piece of that pie couldn't you bite off, right? Is it the taxes? Is it the HOA? Can you do an appraisal guarantee? And she's like, wait, we can't see any. And I mean, I have coached this person and coached this person. So sometimes it takes, you know, 5, 6 conversations. I had the buyer consult. I explained it all. I explained the importance of a lender, which we'll get to later. And sometimes they're new, or they're confused, or they don't listen, or they're not hearing you, or whatever. But don't be afraid to have that conversation multiple times, and even stop, you know, your showings for a minute if you need to, until all that stuff is ironed out, because this market is moving at a very fast pace. And especially if they're not using a strong lender, you know, it's a waste of their emotions. It's a waste of your emotions. It's a waste of the time until you're making sure that all these pieces line up, because it does move so fast. So that's been an important one too, is actually get that lender on the phone, let them share their screen, give them permission to share their screen, tweak the numbers in front of everybody. We're a team, right? So.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right, we need to move on to the next, number 3, pass fail inspection. So it's crazy times we're in right now, but I mean, really, if you know, go for a full inspection right now, the chances are your deal is going to get rejected. So to kind of cover your ass, a pass fail inspection is something that we feel it's only for any major issues. And they're not asking for any money. Obviously, if it's something super major, you would just call it a fail and walk away. But I think that that's something that's really, you know, necessary right now. Let's hear
And
from
that's
you guys.
terminology I don't even use. anymore. I just use informational purposes for
Yep.
inspection because I feel pass fail kind of already makes it like a negative kind, with the
Same.
wording.
Mhm.
So I
Yep.
use informational purposes on
Yep.
inspections
Well,
because at least you have those days to be able to back out if needed.
I also think it leads to confusion when you tell your client you're gonna do a pass or fail inspection, because I have had I'm not agents, I've had clients who said, well, does this house pass or does it fail inspection? I know Dan's gonna say something on this, but like, I feel like, the answer is, well, we're not here, it's not a grade. We're not grading it pass or fail. We're telling you, this is what you're gonna inherit when you buy this house. Are you okay with it or are you not? So I think the informational purposes, to me, sounds better than pass or fail. Because every time I see pass or fail, I think, well, that to me sounds like they're gonna bail if there's anything going on. So I would rather do information only personally, but I
Yep.
mean, depends.
There's a hybrid too, like, what did I see the other day? It was, the inspection will be for buyers' informational purposes only, and they will only concern themselves with any individual inspection item of over 4,000, 5,000.
Yeah.
Because informational purposes only, I'm like, now if we're looking at from your buyer's perspective, I don't know if I like that for my buyer. It's basically saying you can do it, but you've got no recourse against the seller whatsoever. You have to move forward. So I like a little.
So what I find in
bit-
that one, Julie, what I've been able to do with that one is if it's something that's gonna be, anything that they're gonna have to redisclose if we back out of the deal, I'll go back to the listing agent because I've had to do it recently and go, hey, we found this is concerning. I know we had, informational purposes anyway, but there's a
Mhm.
chance that they may drop it.
Yeah,
And
Yeah,
every
and
time
I'm-
I've been able to renegotiate something else for my client because they don't want to pop it back on the market. And it's something that they would have to disclose anyway. So I've been able to negotiate those as well.
yeah. I mean, in the chat, Mitch is saying health, structural and wellness, well-being, health, safety, structural.
That's how I
living
usually
safety.
write it, health,
Yeah.
safety and structural only. That way, and the way I tell my clients this is I say, we're not going to nitpick the seller, because if we nitpick the seller, it's just going to piss them off and it's going to go downhill from there and they're not going to want to do any of these things. So if we stick with health, safety and structural, this protects you, because if there's mold in the attic or we find, some fire hazards or something, we can easily go back to them and ask for those things.
The-
Or if radon's high or something like that. I know not everybody here is from Michigan, but if radon's high, maybe we can ask for those things. But if we do information only, that is, you are accepting everything with that house and you're either moving forward or you're not. So, making sure that they understand that, because I have had people, and I use stories a lot too, where I say, we don't nickel and dime client or the sellers, because I mean, I had a new house that was 2 years old and when we sold it, I had 2 pages of repairs they wanted. And all it did was make me angry, made me angry at the agent, and made me angry at everybody. So I would we don't do that. Let's stick to the main concerns.
Right. And what are they willing to do? Because if you do health, safety and structural and someone else does informational purposes only, the listing agent's probably going to lean towards the informational purposes. So again, you have to explain it all to your clients and see what they're willing to do. There's so many
Mhm.
different ways to write this, and
Right.
pass fail does, it's really not good. I mean, from a seller standpoint, like you said, they can walk away for anything on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really like pass fail. I don't like pass fail. I like little hybrids of all the things we talked about, and it's based on what your client's willing to do and your dialogue with the listing agent. What's it going to take? What's it going to take? Sometimes you're in the top 3 and that's all it takes is for you to change your verbiage on this or something else. So it's all about dialogue with the listing agent in the end.
All right, let's go to number 4, or else we're never going to get done today. This is important. We talked about this morning on our daily huddle. Have your lender call listing agent immediately after offer submitted to highlight strength of buyer, instead of, because how the listing agent has to call the lenders in many cases. Well, take the offense as the best defense. Have your lender call. And that's why it's important to be working with a strong lender that's likable, that is, that really holds themselves well. Stephanie, you have a question. Your hand's up.
I just wanted to add that this is huge who you're working with and if they work on weekends. Because right now we're seeing a lot of everything going highest and best by weekends. Being a listing agent, not having to wait until Monday to contact those lenders is huge.
It's totally huge because I can't tell you, I mean, I'm a 20 plus year lender, and any good agent would always call me to ask about my client's offer. And, I wish that, I never really was a big fan of realtors, real estate agents when I was lending. I did mostly refis and stuff back in the day because I thought a lot of agents were high maintenance and demanding, but that's for another mastermind. But
before you got your own license.
correct.
I got
And
mine.
I'm like, holy shit, I think that the agent has to do so much more. But anyways, it's a great strategy, and I mean, it'll really help. It'll make you stand out.
Yeah, Roberto says he puts it in his offer email, which is great, that the lender's going to be reaching out to confirm the buyer's credibility. I love that. Expect a call.
Love it.
Expect
Love
a call
it.
from my lender. We're proactive. It's good.
All right, number 5.
Oh, Lee,
Whoops.
can I say something really quick? Sorry. I was just going to say, one of those things with communicating with your clients and with the lender and all that is explaining
Oh, you cut out.
We heard explaining.
better too.
We heard everything up to explaining.
Of course, because I'm by my house, so I lose signal.
This is where we
Never
lose
mind.
Nicole.
Ignore me.
Okay, we won't be hearing
All
from
right, so-
Nicole much longer here.
Let's go to number 5. Make the terms of the offer appealing. Did I spell appealing right?
Yep,
Yep.
that's
It's
right.
funny because sometimes when you look at a word and you keep staring at it, doesn't it look like it's spelled wrong? Like that happens all the time. But
It does.
it's probably
Yeah.
because we realized we had to put this mastermind together like an hour ago.
Yeah. Are we gonna get into like the offer summary? Is there
Yeah,
another?
we're
slide?
getting
Okay.
to that in
Okay. Yeah. Well, obviously the terms, as much as you can make them as appealing as possible. I mean, some of it were obviously at the whim of our client's financing. So, but the things we can do are what we already talked about, which was the inspection. Everyone's giving free occupancy, right? I don't, it's very rare not to see it. That's something I think is a non-negotiable with your client, wouldn't you say? Try to keep the inspection as tight as possible as far as time frame on it. If you are doing one, which you should, try to make it 3 days, even 2 days. Even so, 7's not even flying anymore. 7 used to be like a really good, inspection period. Not anymore. It has to be as tightened up as it can be based on, right, the availability of an inspector. So you need an inspection company with several inspectors, right, Dan? So you can get somebody in there right away. What
Anyone
else,
have
guys?
anything to add to that?
Yeah, what else we got?
So one thing I do with, depending on my clients and what their cash on hand is, instead of going way over asking price and offering appraisal guarantees that they're probably gonna end up having a dip in their pocket for, is I'll go through and actually start doing covering seller closing costs is what I do. And
So
that
there's
tends
less
to-
exposure, so less exposure. On
less exposure. So if you have a, if you have a house that you listed at 500,000 and my clients have, 35 grand that they can cover, appraisal guarantees and stuff like that. And if we're going to go 30, 40 grand over anyway, and then have to throw their money in the game that way, what I'll do is I'll write up the offer at asking price and then cover all the closing costs. So what that does is, because everything's based on percentages, Now that means that if they're going to cover 35,000 in closing costs, the next offer that they have to beat me has to come in at, 540 and some change in order to beat out my offer. And then what that does for my client, for a buyer, is that's 35 less grand that they have to borrow possibly, depending on where appraisal goes. It saves them on a little bit of their taxes in that community. So overall, over so many years, they're saving money ultimately. And then same thing with the seller, they're netting more money as well. So what I'll do is I'll send 2 seller net proceed sheets with my offer that shows what the seller is going to walk away with my offer. And then a comparable offer, what a comparable offer has to look like on a standard offer just to beat mine, because a lot of people don't pay attention to the dynamics of it all. So on like a $500,000 offer, if we're covering all of that, it would be comparable to a $540,000 offer.
So you're covering even their real estate commissions, everything, you're covering the full boat.
Everything. It just depends. I mean, I've had some where we've covered $10,000.
Yeah, not all of it.
Not
the
all of
only
it. And
thing
some where
that
we've covered all of it.
seems less appealing to the seller when you're talking 35 grand is, what will my neighbors think, right?
Who gives
I
a
didn't-
shit?
It doesn't matter.
Well, that's what they think
that's
though.
why
They're
at
like,
the end
oh,
of
I
the
didn't,
day-
I
At
didn't
the
sell
end of
for
the day,
top
it's not about
dollar.
the number that you sell
They
it for. it's
show
about
them your
what they're gonna
proceed
net.
checks and see what they
True.
think.
I
True.
think that's
So-
number 7. We're going to
Is
get
that
to
number
that more in
7?
more detail.
That's a great strategy.
Yeah, I got
So
the
let me-
proceed sheets. I'll share when we get there, Lee.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Sorry, didn't mean to
So-
jump ahead. We were talking.
That's
terms,
okay.
So
That's okay. Okay, number 6, utilize a cash offer program and submit a cash offer. So for starters, if the family has the means, like we had a deal recently that the father had cash and bought the house cash for their kids. That's gonna, it's worth, when you're setting up the initial conversation, ask that question. Is there any way that you can have somebody participate and a family member that can help you with the cash offer, or can you borrow off your IRA and you have X number of days to get financing after the fact. So there's a number of things you can do. And then what I'm always looking out for our agents and our groups. So I was able to, it took about 6 months to find the right lender, but I found a lender that I've been working closely with that has a cash offer program, because in Michigan, it's difficult in Michigan. Like there's cash offer programs in other states, but for some reason, they don't like lending in Michigan. Well, I've been able to secure this program for us and our group. And it's a great little tool because it allows you to go in and offer cash, and the bank will close it in their name and they'll assign it to your client. And in some cases, they don't even actually have to close cash. They assign it with the financing in place. But it's a great, it's a great program that we have. And, if anyone wants to know any more about that, you can just message me and I can kind of go, through some of the details.
But I think you need to get your client on a Zoom with the lender,
Yes.
the end lender, because there's so many questions about this and so much uncertainty, and you have to make them completely comfortable with using this method.
And it's very self-explanatory, but I think that it's, I think it's easy for some. I mean, the whole buying, selling mortgage process is extremely confusing for agents. I mean, for clients, and it's confusing for some agents too. But you guys know what I mean. It's like you really need to really educate your client, and that should be back in the number. I think it was number 2 is educate your, sit down and educate your clients, and that needs to come up at that point.
Mhm. It needs to be up front, like right out of the gate. There's this option that exists. And if you want to know more, I think we should jump on a Zoom with the lender so they can fully explain it to you.
All right, number 7. Sell yourself and your expertise, and with High Note. So High Note's a product that we use, and I'll put the link if somebody wants to take a look at it. And it is a standalone web page that allows you to put, remember Nicole in the beginning, she said she hates when an agent sends 6 different PDFs. So this is a web page that you can include all the PDFs in. And what we're doing is we're putting the first thing we're putting in is a short video that you can personalize to the listing agent, or you can personalize it about you and your experience as an agent. And it, I mean, ultimately, it really all comes down to the offer. But I think that if you come across as a likable and knowledgeable agent, and you kind of express that it'll be a smooth transaction based on your experience, I think that's going to be another way to really help you maybe not win every deal, but maybe make it in the final 3 or 4 offers. Do you have anything to add on that, Julie?
No, I think it's great not only for the listing agent to view your video, but for them to share it with their clients. Because you know how those sellers are probably, there's so much anxiety there too about choosing the right offer. And how do I know this is going to be a smooth deal? I heard from my coworker, they just had this terrible agent when they were selling their house, blah, blah, blah. I think, and we all worry, you know, we all want to send love letters, which I don't recommend those. I don't take them anymore. I don't write them. I feel like there's just too much, you know, with fair housing. I don't think it's a good idea, but this is a way that you could even say in your video, you could talk about the buyers and what they love about the house without getting into any fair housing information. So not only can you sell yourself in that video, but you can sell your clients without treading on any marital status or familial status or anything like that. So I think it's huge, especially when it comes down to, what if it came down to the top 2 and there was, what's the tipping point with those top 2 offers if they're pretty much equal? So the video will sell you and your clients.
Awesome. Anybody have anything to add on that? All right, so let's go to number 8. And this is offer to pay closing costs. So this is what Brian was talking about earlier. So why don't you go into more detail, Brian, and explain exactly the strategy that you've used in the past and to continue to use to help.
So what I do, like I said, with my clients, I you know, during our initial meeting, I turn around and say, okay, you know, what type of money or anything do you have, you know, to put in the game, is the way that I put it. You know, as far as, you know, we go through appraisal guarantees, we go through all of those type of things. And as we're looking at homes, before we put in an offer, I'm sure everybody does, you go through and you run comps and try to figure out, you know, where's a good starting point? Where do you think this offer may go based on sales you're seeing in the last 90 days and all of that type of stuff. And if we know right off the bat that, you know, 10 grand over asking and it's going to be a tough go with appraisal, and they have enough money to kind of play around, I sit down and say, well, hey, let's look at covering some of the closing costs for the seller. And it turns into a win-win. It you know, and that's always what we go for, is a win-win in this situation. So I'll go through and I'll walk them through it. We'll set up you know, my feeling is that if somebody prices a house at $500,000 for the market, they should be pricing it where they feel it's at least going to appraise to protect their sellers. You know, so anything over that is whatever. So if we go in at asking price and say we're going to cover all of the closing costs, then I'm not going to offer another appraisal guarantee or anything like that. But what we'll do is say, you know, we're going to cover closing costs up to, but not to go past this set amount of money. And then with that, I'll do a seller's net proceed for our offer and what the seller is going to net when our offer is completed. And then I turn around and do a seller net proceed for a comparable offer if the seller is going to be paying all of their own closing costs. So that way the math is done for them. They can see what type of offer would have to come in to beat us and what they're going to walk away with when everything comes through. And I've been able to get, I think, four or five of my buyers last year. This is how I was able to beat out multiple offer situations, because it's a different technique that you don't see a lot of. So it kind of sticks in the listing agent's kind of mind on that type of thing. And then it turns, like I said, into a win-win, you know, when it comes down to taxes and all those type things, because your taxes open up and, you know, it's based off the sale price of the home. So if they're getting that home a little bit cheaper, overall, they're saving, you know, year over year on taxes as well for the buyer. So, so this is what I've been doing as well.
I have a ton of questions on this. I've never, of all the listings I've had, I've never seen it. Like I've never
Okay.
seen it. I've always had it in the back of my mind. I've heard about it. So let me ask a question. So instead of going way over with X appraisal guarantee, you're paying closing costs instead. Are you kind of hedging your bets onto what that overage is going to be? In other words, an appraisal guarantee is still nebulous, right? It could appraise it this, it could appraise it that. We might have to bring this much, but we might not have to. With the closing costs, paying their closing cost situation, it's a defined amount, right?
It's a defined amount. So every buyer's a little bit different. You know, I use it with buyers that are like, this is the house I want. I definitely want it, yada, yada, yada. You know, and if they know right off the bat, because I gauge my buyers and I'm like, you know, when we go to make an offer, I ask them, is this a house you want to go full throttle in? Or is this a home that you just want to throw your hat in the ring and if we can get something to happen, we can do it, you know, type of thing, because everybody's kind of got their own feelings after talking to significant others or whatever deal is. So if it's where they want to throw their whole, you know, thing in the ring and we can make something stand out, this is what we'll do.
Mhm.
So, and I'll look at them and say, okay, based on this, we know that they're, you know, this neighborhood is getting this many offers, you know, especially if it's a neighborhood I know, or I've talked, and I always talk to the listing agents constantly. So I know, you know, hey, they're getting 5 or 6 offers and we know based on sales and here the last 90 days, most homes are going so far over asking. So it's kind of hedging your bets, but at the same time, it's kind of putting that definite in there of, you know, they got the money to play in the game. So let's just do it and be done with it. So, and out of the 5 or 6 times I've used this, there's 2 times that I've had it pulled off the market within an hour or 2 of it hitting the market because of it.
I
think-
think the only concern that I think buyers would have is, you know, when you're doing appraisal guarantee, it's a possibility that you'll have to pay X amount of dollars. But when you're doing it this way, it's a guarantee. You have
That's exactly what I said. Yep.
you
Right.
will be paying this. Yeah.
And
so
and we
like-
go through
that's
that
the tough part.
and my buyers fully understand that when it comes down to it. You know, and like I said, this is a tactic that I use for people that are, I'm all in, let's just do it. You know, if I'm going to offer this money up and, you know, chances are if I'm going 40, 50 grand over asking anyway, chances are, you know, you're going to be dipping into that appraisal guarantee sometimes, depending on where it's priced and what we're seeing. And I explained to them, you know, every appraiser is different. It could appraise at that price, it could not. You know, so I give them all the ups and downs and whatever. But again, it's not really failed me when it comes down to it. And I've never had anybody go back and say, God, I wish I didn't do it that way.
You're
And-
gonna remember too, at the higher price, you're gonna have they're gonna have higher taxes as well. And over time, those are gonna add up too. So while they may
Exactly.
not
So
come in
over
with
time, you're
that,
saving money when
yeah,
you look at it. And
Less
that's how
transfer
you look
tax.
at it.
Less transfer tax for the seller.
Yep.
The
And,
lower
and
price.
like I tell them as well, you know, if it does appraise at that price, then that's great. And the lender will give you that price. However, you know, 30 years at, you know, 4.75%, you know, of borrowing that extra $30,000 adds up to X amount of money after 30 years. So ultimately, even if you're going all in on it right now, you're still saving money year over year. So that's another way of looking at it for the buyer as well.
Do you ever have a listing agent like confused with the whole process? 'Cause
That's
it's-
why I send a net proceed for both and I explain it in my email.
Okay.
And then I also call the listing agent and walk them through it if they need walk through it. And explain to them. I've had one get confused, but once I showed them everything, that's the deal we ended up done. So, and it doesn't have to be the full cost. It can be,
Mhm.
you know, 10,000, you know, different things like that. Because again, everything is based in percentages in our world.
Do you ever do a little bit of both? Pay some
Yep,
closing costs, also do some appraisal guarantee?
Yep, I've done that. I did that back in December for a client and we got it done over in the Dearborn area.
Yeah, I'd
So
love to
we'll
see.
hybrid
the-
it sometimes. So it just all just depends on what kind of money they have to put in the game and what we want to do. It doesn't have to be full boat, but again, even 10,000, depending on the price of the home, it's still, that 10,000 could still be another offer that's got to come in 12,000 above just to beat you out. Because again,
Yep.
everything's based on percentages.
I
So
think
you're
it could
making
be
that
something.
money stretch.
I think it could be something good, like halfway through, if you're one of the final 2 or 3 offers and you say, and then your clients really want this house, you say, listen, the other person only guaranteed the appraisal X amount, but I'm willing to, cover the closing costs up to this amount. So that's guaranteed. Let's just get this deal done and then show the net sheet, the differences,
Mhm.
and that could help push things over the edge.
Yeah, there's
But I
a
can
lot of
For the
definitely
different ways to
seller
use it.
too, you gotta remember, the higher that price goes, so if they're worried about their neighbors, the higher that price goes, the more in commissions they're paying. So what are we talking about list price for? We should be talking about net profit,
Yep.
really.
That's
Yep.
exactly, and that's what I do. I make it all net profit.
Yeah,
Yep.
we shouldn't even be talking list price. Who cares about the list price? And
Well,
tell your
because
neighbor,
you're
you'll show them
remember, transfer taxes are all based on the sale
everything.
price.
Commission, transfer
Everything,
taxes,
commissions.
title insurance is based off of the
Yeah.
price. I
So the
repeat over
lower that
here.
list price is, the more money you're saving.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right, so let's go to number 9. Sorry to cut you off, Brian, but we.
Oh, no, that's okay.
So this is the most controversial one of all. You're going to get people arguing on both sides, but find out where you need to be to win the offer. It's not illegal to have the listing agent disclose this information. So a lot of times agents are like, well, it's my fiduciary responsibility to not tell you, but really if an listing agent is looking out for the best interest of his client, then they should.
Well, it's
You
their
know-
fiduciary duty to tell you. They just, some
Yes.
don't know it and they
Yes,
tell you, they think it's unethical. They think it's an ethics violation. It's unfair against the other agents that have already written offers. And that could not be further from the truth. I just did Con Ed on this. It is your responsibility to get the best price and terms for your seller. And if that
Yep.
involves telling people where they need to be, giving them an idea, and I'll even weed people out as a listing agent. They'll ask me, listen, if I came in at this, is it even worth me writing? And if they're so far off from where we're at, they appreciate that. I don't want to present 25 offers. I'd rather present 10. And it's not unethical. It's not illegal. It's none of that. And sometimes you can't convince the listing agent otherwise, though. That's the problem. If they're not going to tell you, they're not going to tell you. They're just not. Because obviously this is the best thing you can do for your buyer right here. Where do you need to be? And if you can't do it, you can't do it. Makes everybody's job a whole lot easier, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So hopefully they're smart enough to know that that's what it takes to get their clients the best offer. And if they don't, there is nothing you can do about it if they won't disclose. But don't not do it. Because how many times as listing agents do we just get offers sliding into our email? Like, who's this guy? Never talked to this guy, and maybe they're just throwing in the best that they can. They know that they maybe can't compete.
I just think it's mind blowing that an agent submits an offer and doesn't call or doesn't do anything and just submits it. And
Happens all the time. 50%.
it's mind blowing. Those, if you're one of those agents doing that, shame on you. You don't deserve to. You really need to really look out for your clients, and you have to call the listing agent. You have to put on a good face and fight for your clients. Because if you don't, you're going to be, with your tail between your legs, going back to your clients saying we lost another one. And, and that's why I see a lot of people, they need to be selective of who they choose as a buyer's agent. You need to be selective because you just can't have Uncle Frank, who's, never really done real estate because he's going to kick back 1% commission and you lose out on 10 offers. That's not, that's just not right. Like that's, you're doing them a disservice. I mean, you really need to, you really need to go the extra mile for your client.
Well, and I mean, call those listing agents before you're showing. I call every listing agent before I go into a showing. for my clients, you know, hey, I'm going to be showing this home. Is there anything you would like me to relay over to my buyers? Is there anything, if we're looking to make an offer, that I do not see in the MLS that your, you know, sellers are looking for? So that way, when we're in the home, I can have those conversations with my buyers. So that way they know what to expect right off the bat and what those sellers are looking for. And I'm making a rapport with that listing agent. Now I'm not just calling you after the showing or anything like that. I've talked to you beforehand. Now I can go in, and when I call you again, we've already talked once, you know, and that helps get some of those conversations going with those listing agents.
Right. And before I forget to say this, remember you can be the backup offer. Always, you know, how many
Yes.
times does it fall through? And if you're waiting in the wings there and you're cool and you've talked to the agent and you've really done everything you could, and they really want you to get it, but the other offer beats you out. You know, many times those buyers didn't have time to think about it and they walk, and there you are. So never, don't forget to be the backup offer. And you don't have to necessarily have your clients sign a backup offer. A lot of times they don't want to do that, but you can. You just have to obviously, you know, if they do find something else in the interim, right, you've got to rescind it. And you just have to send an email to rescind it. So it's almost worth doing that, right? Just tell your buyers, if you find
Absolutely.
something else in the meantime, all I got to do is send an email to rescind that backup offer. Let's just do it, you know?
Well,
I have
and
to all the
sometimes
time.
when they're doing their due diligence and they get the offer accepted and they get all excited, then they call their lender to double check. They haven't locked their rates. And meanwhile, it's been 3 weeks and rates have jumped and now they can no longer afford it.
Yep.
So a lot of these
Very
people,
common
and
right
then
now.
instead of putting the house back on the market, these listing agents are going
Yep.
back to, which is really smart, going back to the agents that didn't get the offer and saying, hey, before I put this back on the market, you guys already have your offers in. Let's just pick from these.
Yes, 100%.
You know?
All right, cool. We're at 1 o'clock already, Lisa. What's
Awesome.
number
So
10?
let me, so that wraps up today, but before everyone
there's
leaves, I want to talk about next week. And next week we have Anthony Dezette, who's a friend of mine, and he is, let me click on this. He's from Louisiana, and we're going to talk about crypto for real estate agents. And I think it's, you know, it's what everyone right now are like, you know, what do I need to know about crypto? How do I get involved with crypto? I heard, you know, I've read stories about properties being bought with crypto. And it is a hot topic. And Anthony is, he's with our brokerage, and he just recently moved to Puerto Rico. He's trying to save on taxes. God bless him. I hope to be there in a year or two. But he is from Louisiana, so he's got that southern Louisiana draw, and he's going to be chock full of information next Tuesday. So I'm looking forward to that. And as we close it out, 28th of April, go ahead. Who wants to take it? Jennifer, you take it this time. What's going on April 28th?
April 28th is going to be the best day of this month aside from Easter, because we are doing a major event at Andiamo in Warren off of 14 Mile near Van Dyke. We're going to be talking about mindset, how to manifest the life of your dreams, building a great team like Julie and Lee have here. We're going to have Dress for Success. We're going to have a branding photographer there. If you like this mastermind, that one is going to level you up even more. And very importantly, I also wanted to touch on the fact that if you guys like all the things that we're doing here in Modern Agent Blueprint, we're trying to change the script and make it more about collaboration over competition. And our group as well, if you're finding that there's so many gaps in your business and you kind of want more, you want to go to that next level and get deeper in these conversations that we're having, reach out to the person that invited you in, because with the Lux Group, we are all individual agents, but it's a huge collaboration. And we do this stuff like all day long. Like Lee said, we have a group text going all the time. We do our accountability calls, which anyone is welcome on those accountability calls, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. So if you are finding that you do have a gap in your business and you need help being pushed forward, reach out to the person that introduced you and invited you over to Modern Agent and see if they can help fill some of those gaps for you. That's my,
Awesome. You are awesome. Thank you so
I gotta,
much.
I
Thank
gotta
you,
add something
everybody.
to it. Lee, there's
Yeah.
gotta be a number 10 there on your list. It's create a relationship. And that means that going to networking events, getting to know the agents. I liked what Brian said earlier, that now he's calling that agent and get a relationship with that agent going. I think it's very powerful when there's something that there's a relationship with the listing agent.
That's great.
It's very powerful.
That-
So true. It's
that
so
is
true because
awesome.
when it all comes down to it, like, who do they want to do a deal with? You
Yep.
know?
If
And
I
if
know
you're-
Julie, I'm gonna deal with Julie. I'm not gonna deal with Lee.
Exactly. You nailed it.
What did I ever do to you?
No, it's true though, because the more agents you can know, the better your chances, right? I
Yes.
mean, not that we're playing favorites, it's just if I know you're gonna do a smooth deal where it's gonna be seamless, I'm not gonna have to chase you down to find out what's going on.
That's
It's
so
just
true.
makes everybody's life easier. So yeah, get
and
out.
you know
and
the
do-
people that are gonna cooperate with you too, right? You know that they're like, well, that's too bad. It's like, let's cooperate and get everybody to the closing table. We can do a little bit of give and take, you know, who are the agents that are gonna do that
Mhm.
with you?
I mean, they always say if you're in real estate, you can't be a secret agent. You need to let everyone know you're an agent. You need to really, get involved in really everything within the community and especially that's so true with all these networking events with other agents. It's so important.
Yeah.
It's more important now than ever, I think. And just everything is changing so fast. Technology is changing. If you're not up with it, you're getting left behind.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not up to networking with other people, you're getting left behind. And this market is going to show those that get left behind. So don't be that person, right?
All right, everybody, you have an amazing day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Guys, thanks for being
Bye.
with us. See you guys.